on YouTube? It's your boy Solo35 the Wizard. And I'm back here with another reaction, but unfortunately, it's not quite the reaction I was expecting. It is a bit of sad news behind it. And yesterday, we got some tragic news that the one and only Big George Foreman had passed away at the age of 76. I was just scrolling down on my feed. I think I was on Instagram. And no, I might have been on X. Which, by the way, you guys make sure you follow me on X. The link should be in the description there. But yeah, I was scrolling down on X and saw that he had passed away. And it threw me off. It threw me off so bad. So I said, why not react to his short documentary, George Foreman, Knockout King, an original board film documentary by the homie Joseph Vincent. Man, he makes some really good boxing documentaries. Like, you would have thought they were full movies, and which they are, to me, anyway. Things like this happen, people come and go. It's just a way of life. So, you know, now that he has gone, let's just appreciate him now, and let's see his accolades and see what he has done for the sport of boxing. Original video will be definitely in the link below, in the description down below. Make sure you go check out Joseph Vincent's channel and tune into all of those documentaries because they're pretty good. But yeah, without further ado, let's go.
The devastating power of George Foreman is something of a legend.
Big George Foreman. In his career, he's copied the baleful stare of the
I
man
think he
who
was
once
like,
was his boxing hero,
I think he was
Sonny
about
Liston.
6'4", 6'5".
Before Mike Tyson, there was Foreman, a mountain of a man.
Dang, man.
Who scared opponents and spectators alike.
He was just slugging him
George Foreman wins his
without care.
professional
He was
fight.
gonna go down.
What was once considered the greatest.
Look at his
prize
arm,
in
man. His
sports.
arm is huge.
Twice, as two different fighters, two different human beings.
Board
Raised in
film.
Houston's Fifth Ward.
An infamously impoverished community riddled with crime and violence.
It's such a shame when you're so poor and you don't want everyone else to know that you're so poor. But really, you're not poor, you're poor.
It was here Foreman became the king of the street fight.
Because I kept fighting, getting into fights, picking on people, pushing around. I was a bully.
Foreman found refuge and purpose inside the square circle.
You gotta be a bully to do what you did in the ring,
Then
what he
all
did
of
in
a
the ring.
sudden, you get into boxing where anger is applauded.
Who got you involved in
I
boxing?
want those
That was
shoes.
a trainer, Doc Broder.
The 1968 Olympics were only a year away, but Doc promised to make George one hell of a boxer.
As a young man,
That's real interesting because it's like, you know, it's one thing to kind of be the fighter. It's another thing to be a trainer too. To be able to see potential in certain people and then that potential actually see through, like come through. That's like a crazy ability. You know what I'm saying? People always kind of look at the fighter and his ability to fight. But I like to think about the trainers as well and how they're able to see and give that foresight and be like, okay, you can do some good. Let me take you to the top. And there it is. I forget his name. His name was Doc, George Foreman's trainer, Doc there. He saw that in him.
he was regarded as one of boxing's most brutal contenders.
His sparring sessions aren't just a training routine. They are instead intense efforts by sparring partners to simply survive a 3-minute round with a man whose punching power is
He threw his arm like a bat. Oh, man.
1967, I had my first boxing match. Well, as you have seen, we have some young bombers to prepare for the Summer Olympic Games in boxing.
Nuclear
What is
bomb.
my knockout. It inspired me to be going to be a Golden Glove champion in San Francisco.
First time I'd ever heard his name. George was brand new. He had only been in a boxing ring for a couple of months at that time.
George raced through the Golden Gloves and into the Olympics,
Smooth right.
where his uncanny power was too much for even the veteran fighters.
George Foreman wins the gold medal of the 19th Olympiad.
For Foreman, boxing was a means to lift himself out of poverty.
How much Foreman has progressed since his Olympic days remains to be seen.
You know, even though you were having all this professional success
Nice.
at that time, you were pretty angry.
In his first 40 fights, he knocked out 92.5% of his opponents.
40 fights, he knocked out 92.9% of them.
Piston, if you will.
Oh,
The
that
three
hurt.
that really scared
Oh,
me were Sonny Liston first, then George Foreman, who was like an improvement on Sonny Liston.
I give up.
And then
I'm not even getting in the ring.
Mimicked his persona after the great Sonny Liston.
I met Sonny Liston. He became my role model. He had to be the most angry fella I'd met. He
Sonny
looked
Liston.
right through you.
Ooh, that's Sonny Liston there.
Forbidding and intimidating, utterly hostile manner about
Boom. Cracking folks.
I came to believe early on that George had acquired some of Sonny's characteristics directly from Sonny. He learned how to glower, and he learned how to punch.
George is doing his best imitation of
Look at
Sonny Liston.
George's brow and him just looking monotone like that, just dead at you.
He wanted to scare his opponents,
Scary.
to be seen as a monster. It worked.
Yeah, it definitely worked. Crack. Whoa.
Oh, when I was in the ring, you really saw the best of me. Outside the ring, I was really some terrible fellow because I did some things to people that mostly, in the ring, I'm not ashamed of my boxing matches, but outside the ring.
Oh, what was that? Oh.
I'm ashamed of to this day.
Look at it.
He can't do anything at all, and it's Foreman just pounding him into the
Oh.
cage. And the referee, Arthur McCarthy, stops the fight in the second round.
That's not funny. That he hurt that man.
Look at George pulverized.
Boom.
I thought that with my fist, I could knock any man out.
The media, his peers, and the
I mean,
fans
you're not
all
wrong.
viewed him as the villain, the monster, who hurt and punished his foes with little remorse.
Foreman's dynamite power in both hands is making him the scourge of the heavyweight division.
Boom.
George Foreman is now the #1 contender for the heavyweight championship.
You already
And the
knew it was
question
over.
is, who's going to stop this Foreman steamroller? It looks like Muhammad Ali and even champion Joe Frazier will have to make room for this Houston tornado, George Foreman.
Muhammad Ali.
In his
Ooh,
first
George.
title fight,
Joe Frazier.
Foreman would be pitted against fan favorite Joe Frazier.
Frazier had recently defeated Muhammad Ali and was viewed as the far superior boxer.
Conventional wisdom heading into the Frazier fight was that George was a raw, sort of rookie.
Rest in peace, Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali
Beat
too.
a great fighter like Joe Frazier.
Scoring 34 knockouts. He's 6'4" and has a reach of 7.
Yeah, I'm about 6'4" myself. Big guy. He's a big guy. I'm a big guy.
Joe Frazier had beaten Muhammad Ali. I was
Oh, look at
undefeated.
this quality. What was
They
that?
didn't see how this young kid could
He
win.
was undefeated and was coming off the Ali win, and he was a 3.5 to 1 favorite.
I must say.
Oh, Joe was coming off of Muhammad the Ali fight. Whoa. George Foreman was a slugger too.
And then he's got these hands that are literally like canned hams.
Yep.
And he just
George was
Canned
powerful.
hams.
There's no doubt about that. I mean, he was out there to get me.
His power seemed to be a weapon unlike any the sport had seen.
Boom, boom,
The
boom.
greatest kickboxers could not stand up to him.
And for a big power slugger like George, he was accurate. If you look back at that
And from that point
that
on,
clip, he
George
was oddly
regarded
accurate.
as invincible.
See, it's like, you know, because Joe is moving. He's doing his thing. He's bobbing. He's weaving.
Foreman demolished
George catching him though.
Frazier, knocking him down 6 times.
6 times.
You've been known as the hardest puncher ever.
All I had was this one punch. And if I could hit you with it, I would hit you with it. I could take you out. If I missed you, you'd win on decision.
Target practice for George Foreman.
It's a tough day for Joe. Whoa, you saw that weave? George weave? Oh. The guy with the blue hat, a legendary boxer himself. I forget his name. I'm so sorry, I forgot his name.
As soon as it happens to you,
Legendary
it's like,
trainer and boxer.
John L. Sullivan, Broderick, all the Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano, Mohammed, it's like they all just pour right into you, and you feel it. That moment, you
He was
feel
only
it.
24.
I am the heavyweight champion of the world.
George was now a celebrity, and the couple was besieged by reporters.
It's that those guys
Look,
were
he's smiling now. He got that belt
like
around
that.
his
It was
waist.
Joe
Look at that.
Frazier and Kenny Norton.
Yes.
Frazier had split 2 fights with Ali.
I never thought that Mike Tyson was the scariest in his prime.
That's terrifying. This bro showed up to a fight conference in overalls.
Well, to be a boxer, number one, you gotta be stupid. You gotta halfway be crazy.
We think we are likely to have a slugfest. We don't expect the fight to go all the way.
Bam!
Quick punishing right floors him for the second time.
Any of his fights, when he scored those big knockouts, he would really brutalize the guy before he got an average.
This poor guy. I don't even know who that is, but he dealing with champion Foreman there. I don't think it was going to end good either way.
Now, Foreman's being acknowledged as the winner. Roman still cannot get up.
Kenny Norton had split 2 fights with Ali, 24 rounds, and Ali was lucky to win the second one, and he broke Ali's jaw. And
Oh,
Foreman
Ken
knocked
Norton.
them both out in 2 rounds.
And then turn around and
Another legend. Another one.
Muhammad Ali, 12 rounds on a split decision back in September. A combination of cheers and catcalls. Definitely the favorite here. As far as the crowd is concerned, it's Ken Norton. As far as the odds are concerned, it's George Foreman.
The most menacing heavyweight of all time. It would be George Foreman.
I was gonna be the best heavyweight that ever existed.
He is with Ken Norton.
And he is one of the best to ever exist.
George Foreman one bit. Do you really believe, Ali, that he can beat this kid?
Yeah, the man went 24 rounds with me, broke my jaw in the first round. I was in shape the second fight.
That's Muhammad talking.
The people around him were afraid of him. Foreman had really brutalized the people who trained him, and they were terrified of him.
And the hell he gave me, as fast as I am, as accurate as I am, I couldn't whoop Ken Norton.
I had beaten the best in Joe Frazier. No doubt about it, I had beaten the best. People had something to say about that. I said, you know what? I'm going to kill one of these fellas. Then they'll shut up.
Oh, man. Ooh. Oh. Bounced off the ropes just to get caught with another shot.
Like Kenny Norton, I knocked Kenny Norton out easily.
Ah.
Once again, Muhammad Ali found himself in great demand. The WBC and the WBA mandated
That was probably
the fight.
scary to
The public
see.
certainly wanted it, and the media clamped.
That was probably super scary to see back in those days, because it was like, you know, unfortunately today's age, we're used to seeing a lot of crazy things, but back in those days, when you see a man get knocked out like that on television or live, wherever it may be, you probably would have thought he had died himself. That's trauma. That would have been traumatizing.
I think George Foreman will knock Muhammad Ali out, and it'll end Muhammad Ali's career.
The boxers were scared, handlers were scared. The only person that didn't appear scared of Foreman
Was Ali.
was Ali.
The Foreman that fought Ali,
Ali
40, 37 knockouts.
was different.
Unbeatable. The guy's never going to lose.
Everybody was scared, but Muhammad Ali himself.
In Africa. Whenever I think of this fight, it's like the energy behind it was kind of crazy. I don't know if it was because it was in Africa or
Many guys who were talking.
they screaming Ali.
No one never get a chance to talk much. By the time you get to know a fella, it's all over.
As for the fight itself, discussion centered not on who would win, but on
Look at
how
that
much
roll.
punishment Foreman would
Beautiful.
dish out.
The time may have come to say goodbye to Muhammad Ali.
And now we understand that George
Shout out Ali, man, for real.
make his way through the ring.
Because very honestly, I don't think he can beat George Foreman.
Cosell was convinced that Ali is washed up.
Yeah, now, like you said, people thought that Muhammad Ali was washed up. I'm pretty sure that Muhammad Ali was coming off of that 3-year period where he wasn't boxing, or yeah, he had like his license to box pulled because he didn't go into the military. He refused the military, and you know, people in the boxing space, they usually kind of think of that as the period where Muhammad Ali kind of just slowed down. He wasn't the same. younger Muhammad Ali, back when he was fighting Liston and people of that nature, before he took that 3 years off, people said that Muhammad Ali had it back then and that he was sharper, crisper, faster, better in general just then. But then he took those 3 years off. I believe it was 3 years, and then came back into the game. So now here he is fighting Foreman after coming back, and Foreman is this big young monster killer, one-punch slugger. So of course people thought in their mind, yeah, Muhammad Ali is not finna win. But I guess we'll see, right?
This guy was the closest thing to a human monster I'd ever seen before. He was certainly the scariest boxer.
Look at this now as they stare. Muhammad Ali
I'm talking crazy.
Talk to George Foreman. They're really putting a stare on each other.
Talking diabolical.
To stare him down and said, "Oh, George, you were in school when I was beating
George from 40 wins, 37 knockouts. What happened to those other 3?
He knew that the one weakness in this monster, who was thought of as unbeatable, was his
And George
stamina.
is cracking him.
First round, all of us yelled out, "Get off the rope." And he would just say, "Shut up, I know how to do it."
I would say that the round...
Muhammad's body just didn't give way.
And Ali totally got into the guy's head, and he didn't even realize it.
It was Muhammad Ali's fertile mind that created the rope-a-dope.
Here we go, round number 2. The determined Ali got off his stool in between rounds. George Foreman sat down all the way. Ali leans on the rope.
Starting the second or third round, when he went to the ropes, he was calling Foreman all kinds of names. Anything of ugliness you can think of.
In the middle of a fight, Ali was just yapping.
Do initial bump, just lay on the rope and take it with him. This time he did it with character. He said, "Hey, I'm going to weather the storm."
The rope-a-dope.
Oh, when he wailed that like that, that's scary. It's like a robot just.
It just shows you the power of intellect and intelligence and how that can compete against anything.
You see him breathing kind of hard. He was trying to get Ali up out of there.
I mean, a knockout artist. He stood up.
Ooh. Ooh, ooh.
Setting him up against the rope.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. There go Ali, tagging him. Bink, bink.
So young, so strong.
Not supposed to do, leaning up against the rope. 4 punches downstairs, Muhammad Ali.
So fearless.
I had him beat. I really did. And really thought I had him beat up in the body, had him tired.
He did. I mean, George was hitting him. I don't know what happened.
Foreman, he does away with his opponents, one after another, in less than 3 rounds.
George not going
George
that
was
type
slugging
of
him.
distance a long time. He was treading in water, never been in before.
Oh, tap, bink, 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 bink.
Make it, make it. 2. Misses the right hand. Ali is definitely confusing him.
Missing the shots that he missed, it drained him.
But he wasn't really missing though, because Ali was a standing target.
Muhammad Ali.
He was a sitting up. Those punches just wasn't crippling him like he was with other opponents.
I was afraid he was going to get killed by a George Foreman that many of our young viewers don't know.
Bing, 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 ooh, bing, bing, bing. Oh. Ah. Oh, oh, oh. I'm scared. I feel like I'm about to get hit.
I thought he was hurt. I thought his body was hurt. He came back. He hit Foreman with everything, and he winked at me.
He literally just said what I said. Look, you see Foreman's left eye swelling. Or maybe both eyes.
He loved them.
Ali just... Ali.
Any fight, but my goodness, those people who said Foreman would win in a flash have certainly been proved wrong.
Then about the 7th round, he asked me, "That all you got, George?" That was like a nightmare.
I couldn't believe it. I just knew I was going to knock him out in a few seconds. And after 8 rounds, down I'm laying on the canvas, listening to a referee. I was embarrassed.
Wham, wham. That was it right there. Watch the left hand. Boom. Boom. Boom, right in. Oh. Down he goes. Down he goes.
And the most devastating thing in the world to lose the coveted heavyweight championship of the world. I'd worked so hard to get it, and it doesn't. You really, your life is going to change once more from all of this confidence and to devastation.
He was beaten mentally more than physically.
Come home and I was angry for a long time. I figured I'd been betrayed by my managers. I'd been given things in my water to roast for loose. I had all the kind of excuses that filled me with hatred and revenge. I felt like I'd lost everything, not just the championship of the world, but I'd lost myself as a man.
Many have felt that Foreman's psyche was materially damaged by the disaster in Zaire of 15 months ago. Foreman's stamina having become suspect in the Zaire affair.
Ron Lyle.
The mystique of Foreman had vanished.
The intimidating
If you know, you know.
destroyer of worlds
About Ron Lyle.
was replaced by questions about Foreman's boxing skills.
If Foreman is to come back and get another shot at the crown, he must win this fight, and it would help to win it impressive. The face of George Foreman, and for that matter of Ron Lyle, each speaking for itself. Just look at this.
No, back up, bro.
He would immediately be tested by fellow brawler Ron Lyle.
We're about to bring you what we think promises to be a slugfest, a legitimate heavyweight contest.
One of the great back-and-forth wars in boxing history.
Ooh.
A good right by Lyle, and he's got Foreman
Oh.
in trouble. He's got him in trouble.
I was hit so hard I didn't even feel it until I hit the canvas.
Foreman is down. It started with a right.
Ron Lyle.
I've never been hit so hard.
It's coming from his back muscles. Boom. Boom. Ah.
Trying to hold together. Now George struck back. Now
Oh.
George fought
There you go. There you go.
with a magnificent right.
If every boxing match, world title match, would have ended like George Foreman, Ron Lyle heavyweight title match, there wouldn't be any UFC.
Some punches, and just speaking in general terms, you said some punches are so ferocious that they don't hurt. They actually will interrupt communication.
They cracking on
between
each
the
other.
tower and the ground.
Foreman goes down. Foreman goes down. Lyle
Down.
And again, if only it had hurt, I would not have gotten up. It was like you are no longer the same person. You see your legs wiggle, and you're not in control of yourself.
Crack. Here go George coming back again. Crack. Oh. You gotta let him go down. Don't hold him up. Boom, 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 boom. Oh. Yo, that was crazy. Boom, 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 boom. What? Knocked out Ron Lyle.
Spectacular fashion, but the rematch with Ali was not given.
George, you think Ali's maybe backing down from another meeting with you?
There's no telling what he's doing.
I would love a rematch.
I was fueled by a lot of anger, and I walked around with that for years.
Okay, all uniform, then the yellow. Who is this? Joe Frazier. Oh man, bald Joe Frazier.
Instead, he would do
Oh look, that's Joe Frazier's son, Marvis Frazier. Soon to be heavyweight.
It went much like the first fight.
That's when Joe was slowing down himself in his career.
In my mind, there only exists one piece of tension, and that's for the heavyweight championship of the world. And I would like to avenge the only defeat I ever had against you know who. I'm not gonna give him no publicity.
Still, the rematch with Ali was not given. George's love for the sport of boxing had begun to wane. He would lose a close decision to Jimmy Young.
A decision.
Look at that crowd get to its feet.
And
Jimmy Young. He said he had a religious experience after the loss to Young. Others called it heat frustration in Puerto Rico in 1977.
And then he would retire, unceremoniously.
People were like, oh, that's okay, man. You know, you'll come back. It was just a fight. But then all of a sudden, things started happening in that room.
He was rushed to the hospital, and the press was told that Foreman had become overcome by the heat. But George felt he had suffered more than a momentary blackout.
The feared brute, known as Big George Foreman, disappeared from the public consciousness.
During a 10-year break from boxing, George Foreman contemplated what Ali had taken from him.
One of the beautiful things that he did is he acknowledged
Foreman, that's the life right there. Look at that.
Acknowledged that loss and put a shrine up.
Walking around on all that nature, farming.
I started to not only be happy about my
Oh,
life,
look at that.
but be happy about the life I'd lived before and put them together and become an evangelist.
Condolences to his children, too, and family, everybody.
To preach the word of God. The little fame and fortune we get is not going to follow us in the grave, brother, sister.
He would find his peace in his faith.
Very
Serving
true.
as a minister for the next 10 years.
During that 10-year absence, at any time, did you have the desire to come back?
10 years, I didn't even shadow box.
He became a terrific father.
You've got 5 sons, 5 daughters. I know you're very proud of all of them.
5
They're all
sons,
named
5
George.
daughters.
I named all my sons George Edward Foreman.
In 1984, he had started the George Foreman Youth and Community Center.
He opened his own youth.
If my dad named us all basically after him, I'd be like, at some point, I'd ask him, like, yo, what are you doing? We need some sort of differentiality here. We need some sort of diversity in this section. Like, we all just George Foreman. Police come to the house, hey, where's George Foreman? Here. Everybody just, like, 18 hands raised up. Here. Come on, man. It's all good, though.
To do so.
Giving money for scholarships for kids to go to school. I had to keep that up.
Oh, look at that.
Getting
them right.
The center going, but as his money ran out, George was in danger of losing it all.
The youth center started to take every dime I could get. It started costing everything to get a foundation, lawyer fees, building. I wanted to go out and do myself, and I ran out of money, and that's the reason I even got myself back in the boxing.
13 years after losing his title, George Foreman began the
13 years.
task of regaining it.
I said, I got to go back into boxing. I asked my wife, I said, what do you think? She said, they're going to kill you. Don't do it.
You look, you're 300 pounds, you're too old, you'll never be champ of the world, because they thought I wanted it overnight. But I looked in the mirror and said, you know, they're telling the truth. I'm pretty old here.
Tomorrow night, veteran boxer George Foreman
38
will put
years
on the
old.
gloves and climb back into the
Not
ring
the
after
ideal
almost
age.
a decade in retirement.
But I'm going to start from the bottom. I know how to promote. I know how to recreate. I know how to get myself back in shape.
Just as unceremoniously as he had retired, he returned, fighting no-name opponents and journeymen.
So I came back. I got a scale. I was 315 pounds.
Woo! 315. Boom!
That's a knockdown because no, it isn't. It should have been. You went against the ropes.
Yeah, you gotta let him go.
And then when people started to take him seriously because they were tantalized by a charming, fat old heavyweight, I just swooned at their gullibility.
George was viewed as a joke, held up as an example of the decline of the sport of boxing. Cash grabbing on his past accomplishments.
Well, George Foreman wins on a TKO. It is his 8th straight wins.
An aging, overweight has-been.
They laughed at me.
Cracking him, though.
People wrote me from all over the world, George, don't do it.
Trying to recapture that glory.
Sat him down.
But the one thing they all had in common who would write me, there wasn't a dime in the mail.
Carefully and quietly, he rounded himself back into boxing form.
They laughed at me, and I fought one fight after another. One after another. They laughed. The more I win, the more they would joke. George Foreman's not fighting anyone.
That is George Foreman, the 39-year-old
They
ex-champion.
lit up a fire when they did that. Boom!
As his competition rose, opponents were dead set on proving the old man was finished.
Yeah, he still has that unbelievable punching power, even though he's got a belly and the
Looks like he's shambling around in his pajamas. He's still got something.
But here he is, 3
Definitely.
years later, so I have to salute him. Salute him for pulling off one of the great scams in boxing history, which, trust me, is saying a lot.
Pulling them away though. They can't refute the evidence.
Unlike in his first go-around, George was now a fan favourite. His lovable charisma and willingness to poke fun at himself endeared him to the masses.
In boxing,
Cheeseburger?
more admired or more in demand.
By George, I think he's got it.
George had become the undisputed king of the big cell.
Because George is very popular, and he deserves the popularity that he's gotten because he's a natural. There's nothing phony about him.
Appearing on magazines, commercials, his own sitcom.
But you look good. You look great.
You only saying that because it's true.
Foreman the boxer was famous, but Foreman the salesman was a phenom.
George III. I was a salesman. I'd learned to be a salesman. I had 10 years out of boxing to be an evangelist, and I understood if you don't really make some noise and make people pay some attention, no one is going to stop and listen to you.
At the peak of his fame, he became the spokesperson for a household grilling product, the George Foreman grill.
Oh man, the George Foreman grill. We had one when I was a kid. That was when I learned how to first start cooking on a George Foreman grill. Shout out George Foreman for that one, man. Shout out to you, George Foreman. Rest in peace. Shout out to you for that George Foreman grill.
Foreman nearly $5 million a month from sales.
And then all of a sudden the checks just started rolling in. This thing sold over 100.
I think I'm gonna get one again.
Right, and to give the check some context too, you end up being bought out, I think, for something like $140 million after what you had already made.
This is my George Foreman family-sized grill that sears. No, it isn't. It's my George Foreman griddle that cooks pancakes.
Everybody likes a jolly fat man.
Well, one thing people love about him, you saw right there, the highest knockout percentage in the history of all heavyweight champions. Part of George Foreman's odyssey in this comeback, up and down the scale. Thus seems like yesterday's weigh-in.
Yeah, it's his first return fight. He weighed 267. Here he is 3 years later, 263. You've heard of the diet formula. What is it, Slim Fast? I think George has developed Slim Slow.
Slim Slow. Bro got jokes.
Once he hits the guy, he totally paralyzes his opponents.
Boom. Ah, that hurt.
Boom, perfect timing.
Rodriguez goes down.
Or she blows.
Case in point.
You out of there, right? Yeah.
Foreman, who demolished Joe Frazier to capture the world crown 17 years
Woo!
ago, is making a
Holyfield.
remarkable comeback. Now shaven-headed, he's recorded 22
A younger
victories on
Holyfield.
his way to another shot at the world title.
And it wasn't long before a super fight against heavyweight champ Evander Holyfield was in high demand. In what would be, at that time, the biggest payday in heavyweight history.
George
Really?
said, I may be old, I may be fat, but he said, here I is.
Mark, with a 28-year-old Evander Holyfield, undisputed heavyweight champion, and for the first defense, he's fighting a 42-year-old George Foreman.
The pundits.
So George had Muhammad in his corner for this fight.
So a lot of people made a big deal about this as being a farce beforehand. You think that George, even though you say Holyfield is going to...
Seemingly impervious to pain.
George seems to have absorbed those punches in the previous round rather well there.
He did.
The first round I gave to George because I think he legitimately hurt Evander in the last 30 seconds.
Round 6 scheduled.
For the winner by unanimous decision.
Decision. Oh, he lost that one too.
It's trite to say, but Foreman was a winner in many respects here tonight as well.
Ultimately, Foreman was beaten on points, but the way he fought proved that the second coming of Big George Foreman was no mirage.
like the eighth wonder of the world. And never will you ever see this again.
George,
it'll take 50 years before another generation sees something like this. We're a man closer to 50, 60 than he is to 20 and 19. Show the whole world by going toe-to-toe, and the young man is holding on to his breath.
Talk that talk, George.
Boy, I tell you, what is happening
Talk
to the
that
world?
talk, George.
All senior citizens around the world can be proud of themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Hip, hip, hooray.
Hip, hip, hooray. He had a little Muhammad Ali in him right there. The way he was talking.
You've inspired us. You've entertained us. But now, please, isn't it time to go back to the old fishing hole before you seriously get hurt?
2 days after Michael Moore beat Evander Holyfield, I got a call from George. And I said, George, you can't kid me. You want to fight Michael Moore. And he said more than anything else in the world.
When Michael Moore defeated Holyfield to become the new champion, George Foreman, at age 45, would get one final shot.
I knew what Teddy told me.
Sugar Ray Leonard over there.
He's a big con. And I just look at him like...
Teddy Atlas? What's wrong with Teddy Atlas?
You're so fake.
Featuring the clown king of the sport, the larger-than-life George Foreman.
Well, there are a lot of skeptics out there who think that George now is
Bro, he ain't got a robe this time. He just got the sweatsuit. Or maybe you do got a robe.
He hasn't earned this championship shot as a fighter. He hasn't fought in a year and a half, and on that auspicious occasion, he lost to Tommy Morrison. With the fighter he's fighting, he's going to have to punch and try to club him and just keep beating him. But I don't think that's going to happen.
So you see no chance that George can win the fight?
Very little.
Very little.
Foreman hoped to become the oldest heavyweight champion in boxing history. But despite the optimism of the crowd, few gave Foreman more than a puncher's chance.
Middle-aged men don't knock out 25-year-old heavyweight champions.
I ain't believing it.
To win the heavyweight title by a huge margin.
They haven't seen it. They ain't seen it before.
I always thought if the George Foreman from the Rumble in the Jungle had the brain of the George Foreman who fought Michael Moore, that's the greatest fighter ever.
Let's get ready to
Young Bruce Buffer. It was Bruce Buffer or Michael Buffer? I can't remember. Oh, no, I think it's Bruce.
The 5 races against him, the
Pretty sure.
against him, and already he lost the first 5 rounds.
But it's revealing that he chose to wear the same trunks on this night that he had worn in the jungle 20 years before.
George Foreman in the shorts he wore that night in Zaire, the Rumble in the Jungle, when he lost his world heavyweight title.
I told you, I'm the champion of the world.
But he always saw the ghost of Muhammad Ali, and everybody has felt all along that you're always chasing the ghost of Ali. Does this make you...
He came out on top.
20 years after being beaten by Ali, Big George Foreman recaptured the heavyweight championship, the oldest champion
Come on,
in the
man.
history of boxing.
Doubted him badly.
I'm not the greatest, but I'm the hungriest. And those guys were younger, stronger, faster, more sophisticated. But the one thing
Oh, the mouthpiece.
was good old hunger.
Oh.
Nobody
God,
brings
yeah,
it
just
home like Joe. Nobody.
look at that. That's it. Once again, shout out Joseph Vincent, Board Films over here making great documentaries. Of course, I want to just say, once again, rest in peace to George Foreman. He was a super duper inspiration when it comes to the world of boxing and a super duper inspiration when it comes to me, myself. But there was another reaction with your boy Solo 35, the Wizard. Make sure y'all come back on the next one. Peace.